So how do you create the most momentum possible? Again, you kind of sketched out there. Desire plus belief, like minus attachment.
Hey guys, we got Jerrid Sebesta coming up next. And I got to tell you, he's not in the mortgage business, which is, kind of rare for this episode or for this show. But he is a trainer, a coach, high performance, like mindset type of guy, right? So we went deep into mindset on this show, which is a passion of mine. I love that kind of stuff. All the way from growing up, right? What you're fed as a kid, but then as an adult, believing in who you are today, who you want to be, not who you were told you were going to be or the beat down you got from other people. None of that matters. It's who are you today and who do you want to be? And then how are you going to feed yourself with the right information in the heart, in the brain, everywhere to become this high performance individual, right? And there's the work-life balance piece. There's how do you get it all? And yes, there's times of purposeful imbalance. We talk about that, but the reality is you can have it all, but you have to have systems in place to be able to achieve that kind of stuff. So you guys are going to love this show. I promise you. And Jerrid Sebesta, check it out. All right, brother. So listen, right out of the gate, who are you? Tell everybody who you are, both personally and professionally.
Sure. Yeah, I'm 47. I'm hopelessly middle-aged. I say that tongue in cheek, but I'm a father. I'm a believer. I've got 4 kids. I've been married for almost 20 years. I've had a couple of careers, a couple of decade-plus careers, which one of those was a TV weatherman. I don't know how many TV weathermen that you have on this show. Probably I'm the first, perhaps.
Can you give us like a 10-second
weathercast? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Forecast highs today, the low 30s to mid 40s, mostly cloudy, southwest wind at 5 to 15. Tomorrow back into the 70s. Enjoy your day.
Right.
How'd you like that? It took 20 years to develop that voice. I'm just a small town kid. I grew up in rural Minnesota, I'm talking about rural Minnesota out in the boonies. That's exactly where I was raised from, come from very humble beginnings, slightly dysfunctional, which we'll probably touch on a little bit here today, but a guy who's just trying to figure it out. And the more that I start to understand who I am and connect with how God created me to be, the more bold and exciting life becomes, and the more excited I am for what's ahead. And that is something that was not the way I looked at life a couple of years ago. So just a guy on a journey who's just really trying to connect with who God created him to be.
So question for you then, since you brought up God.
Let's go right there.
Yeah, let's just go right there. Has your journey always been through God, or did you get there at some point in your life after trials and tribulations?
Yeah, great question. So I was not raised in a religious home. I became a Christian. I'm using air quotes for people that are listening to this show. I became what you'd probably consider a reborn Christian in college. I played college basketball. You can't tell on this recording, but I'm 6'6". I played college basketball at the University of North Dakota. A teammate of mine started a Bible study when I was a senior in college. So I'm like 22, 23, started going to this Bible study. I have no idea. I literally went because some of my teammates were going. It was not on my radar. He started telling me things that I had never heard before. And over the course of probably that year, just dug in and probably quote unquote got saved. I'm using very evangelical talk here. And that was the beginning of 23 years old at the time and just diving in. This is the early 2000s. So like the Christian music back then was incredible, by the way. It was Michael W. Smith's Audio Adrenaline, the Newsboys, if you guys are, if you're familiar. And the journey was steady and accelerated at times and went through a number of seasons in the last 20 plus years. But there was a level to which my faith, my connection with God has really increased in the last couple of years. And there's a depth to it, right? Like with any relationship, it starts off and it's this deep, and then you go deeper and there's more intimacy and you understand more. And while my faith has always been there, it's gotten so much deeper lately, and I feel more connected than ever because I can see the depth of how this world operates, like how this universe, I think there's a technology. I love this word. There's a technology between the connection of the physical and the spiritual. And I find it fascinating that this technology is in God's word. And if you can start to see the depth in what it's saying, like for example, and again, we'll touch on some of these, but the biblical Sabbath in Genesis 1, that's a technology. You work and then you release, you rest. And God doesn't ask us to do this because he thinks that you should take a day off. It's because there's a surrender piece. And so there's so much depth to the technology at play. And so the more I explore this and the more that I see how beautifully designed it is, my relationship with him goes deeper. So it has been definitely, that's been a journey as well, stretching back to when I was in my early 20s.
See, I would have lost money on that. I would have bet anything that it was a girl. They got you there. You said 20
That
years
many
in
times is
marriage,
the
so
case, isn't it? Yes.
all right, so let's move on, and I love that because obviously I'm a man of faith. I shouldn't say obviously, but for those of you that don't know, I am, and I do feel a connection there, and the older I get, the more and more I realize the word surrender is one of the most powerful words in our dictionary, but you need to learn not just the meaning of it, but how to do it. And if you can do it, and we can talk about it from a spiritual point of view, from a business point of view. There's so many a relationship point of view with your wife or spouse, whatever. It's a powerful word. So I hope we come back to it again. And I have a feeling we're going to, just based on what you do. So now let's go into you. We know who you are personally. Tell us who you are professionally. What do you do?
Again, I've had a couple of careers. I was a TV weatherman for 12 years, had a chance to live all over the country. I had a fascination for earth science. I was a nerdy kid. I loved diving into earthquake books and earth science, and I was terrified of the weather. No kidding, I was raised in a trailer home, and so I was completely terrified of the weather because I always thought I was gonna die. And then ultimately left that career in 2014. I was in the financial world for a number of years, retirement planning space, not as a financial advisor, but doing business development and all the media and the marketing. My skill set is in communications. And 2 years ago, I fired myself from that 10-year-long job, and now I do this. So when I say this, mostly keynote speaking, I get a chance to travel all over the country and share this message to corporations and associations and groups, but also coach people on a personal level, individually and small group style as well. Do trainings. And again, to bring it back to the God theme, God just continues to give me doors to share this message. I'm not trying to sound coy. I really can't do anything else. This is about the only thing I can really do well is communicate and share a message with people. In fact, true story, when I graduated from college, I was 23, playing basketball, so I was not that concerned about my career. I was studying meteorology, and my advisor was like, "Jerrid, you're graduating in 3 months. What are you going to do?" And I always thought I was going to work at like a National Weather Service, work for the government. I realized that those are for the smart kids. And again, I'm not trying to sound coy here, but I'm not that smart. Like my skill set again is those skill sets are soft. And so I could always tell a story. I'm one of those guys where if you were telling a joke and I knew the joke and you were butchering it, I would have to interrupt you because I'd be like, let me tell the story. I can share it just a little. I can embellish the truth just enough to make it hit harder, right? TV weather is basically you telling a story for 3 to 4 minutes on the air and talking about weather. And so my skill set has always really landed in this being able to share energy in front of people and get them to understand something that they don't understand. I've written a book called Life Undeferred. That's the name of my platform. I make most of my money keynote speaking. And it's scary as all get out, as you and most of your listeners know, being business people. Business is scary. It's commission based. If you don't go kill it and bring it home, you don't get paid. That is a new feeling to me, but I always felt this inkling that this is what I wanted to do with my life. And as scary as it is, there's nothing more powerful that I could be doing with my life right now. And that brings me a lot of peace and a lot of joy and fulfillment.
What is what's the breakthrough effect?
Breakthrough effect is the name of my podcast. That's a word I use a lot. That word has gotten used a lot back in the Tony Robbins days, breakthrough, and what the crap does that even mean? I th I would define that as it's every time that we level up and we become more true to who we are. I think most people, me included, we're probably to some extent walking around in probably a shell of who we actually are. We've been programmed by oh man, number of things. Our past, our beliefs, something somebody said, something a parent told me when I was a kid, and Maybe the parent said it in jest, but it landed on a soft heart, and I created an entire reality about that. And then we wake up every day for perhaps years or decades, and we're so programmed that within the first 11 seconds of our day, we've already pretty much eliminated all shred of possibility, which, by the way, we're limitless creatures. Our bodies are mortal, but we have a limitless soul that's connected to a limitless creator. It's like your default setting is to create limitless amounts of resources when you're plugged into the source. And we don't live that way. And I know what that feels like. And I know firsthand how stuck and I would say almost miserable at times that can feel. And so I've experienced a lot of breakthrough. What have I experienced in the last 4 years? I've experienced me actually stepping into who I actually am and actually resonating with how I was created to operate at all levels, not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally, with my actions, with my relationships, connecting to my creator. And every time I level up, I experience breakthrough. That's what it is. And it can be like a little mini thing. It could be something big, but this process is so fun, right? I look at my life in year-long chunks, and I'm just often just beyond the camera as my whiteboard, and there's a bunch of stuff written on it. This is my intentions for this year. And I don't make 5-year plans. I'm not one of those guys who's doing a 10-year vision board, because if I'm growing and expanding, having breakthrough on a daily basis by doing the inner work, I'm not going to be the same guy in a year. And so what I think is possible today versus what I think is possible in a year, that's going to be two different things. In fact, if I look at where I've come from, the things that I thought were possible a year ago, it's just the tip of the iceberg on what I believe is possible today. And that trend, I think, is upward exponentially for all of us if we engage with the process of really trying to level up in what I call breakthrough.
So let me ask you this question. You said you used the phrase true to who we are. I had a coach one time, Hope, if you're listening, you're the one that said it. And she had me take the disc profile. And I was naturally a high D, but my adaptive was the lower D. And then I'm a super high I all the way to the top on both. So I'm being true to myself on the high I, but I wasn't being true to myself on the D. And she asked me a question. Usually it's the opposite. At work, people adapt to being a higher D. But in your case, you're adapting lower at work as opposed to higher. And high D for somebody in charge is par for the course. But it's like, why is that? And my response was interesting because I had to think about it. And I guess because I always thought of high Ds as a-holes, and I don't want to be an a-hole. And she's like, that's interesting. She goes, so just so you know, there's plenty of high Ds that are not a-holes, and you don't have to be one. But she goes, what you're doing is you're not being true to yourself. So that's when you said that phrase came out, and it really, I got to thinking about it. I was like, she's right. Because she said, if you're not being true to yourself, then you're not being true to everybody else that you're leading as well. And you're not being as good as you can be. So you're not being as powerful. You're not being as all these things that should be happening. And you're not, because you're not being true to yourself. I have a comment and question. I love that phrase. And I had to realize that I just need to do it different, not how I don't have to emulate other people I see that I think of as high Ds. Man, that's a whole different ballgame. You can do it your way. But here's a question for you. What if you don't like who you are? Yeah. There's a lot of people that don't like who they are. So
Yeah.
to be true to yourself when you don't like who you are, what do you do in that situation?
I would definitely love to dig deeper into that, right? Get to the core as to why. Chances are, if somebody doesn't like themselves, A, there's probably some guilt, shame, belief, like ill-maliced belief somewhere along the line. Because I think that we're all created in God's image, right? And he doesn't make mistakes. And if you understand that you are a crucial part of how this universe functions, not just like your household or your company, right? Like it goes way beyond that. I think when you truly connect with that, I think it's really hard to not like yourself. So that's an us problem. That's something that's going on inside of us, an identity that we've either been imparted on or we've taken on. It's a reality that we've created. So I just challenge people. I would want to go a little deeper into that and really get down to this belief system as to what you truly believe. You mentioned being true to yourself. as at the core, we're humans, right? So it's like we're community people. And so there's this desire to be liked and accepted by the community, by the herd, so to speak. That's just who doesn't want to be liked by the people. And I think that there's probably this propensity to not really want to go too deep and truly become who we are, because the people who are truly authentic to who they are by default are going to stand out. And it goes against this desire that we all have to be accepted. But the truth, there's this conundrum that you see the conundrum, it's like my soul is crying out to rise above and to be authentic and to stand out. But the more that we stand out, the more that we are alone. The irony in that, to take it even deeper, is that will attract other people who are actually being authentic to who they are and doing big things, and they will be attracted to you. But again, listen to these people that are like, again, the high flyers, the people who have done amazing things, standouts. They have had to be true to themselves, but also love themselves as well, and double down on that. Because think of what's happening, to go back to your question. If I don't like who I am, why would I double down on myself? If I don't even like who I am, why would I believe in who I am? Why would I give me a chance? When I'm on stage, I talk about belief and I'll say, what do you need to go all in on? Do you need to go all in on your business, on your marketing, on your people? Do you need to go all in on your marriage? Do you need to go all in on yourself? And you wouldn't believe, I'm signing books after a talk and I say, what hit most? And I've got grown men in tears, and they'll say, you know what? I realized that I've never gone all in on myself. That is, so to your point, that is going to be a massive bottleneck in achieving authenticity and really having a really special life. And I would just challenge people, if you're feeling that, look inward and get really curious as to why you don't like yourself.
So you brought up Tony Robbins earlier, and I'm a huge fan of Tony Robbins. Been to a few of his seminars, obviously read his books. I
Firewalked?
prefer to, what's that?
Have you firewalked?
Oh
Have you?
yeah,
Good for you.
twice.
No kidding.
It went to Business Mastery, which was probably the most expensive seminar I've ever paid for. And it was the absolute best one I've ever gone to as well. But it's interesting because when I went to, oh gosh, what's it called? The Firewalk one, Power with, I don't know. One of those seminars, right? It's a 3-day deal. It was so powerful, man. It was ridiculously powerful. And there's a few things. I was in my early 30s, I think, the first time I went. And I'll admit, my dad did a good job building me up at a young age. So I was already pretty good mentally, in a good space. I was making money, was closing a lot of loans, right? I was like thinking pretty high of myself. And I remember going to the seminar, and at one point, he's intentionally, and he's telling us what he's going to do. He's going to tear us down. He's going to bring us to the lowest level. And he wants us to experience that and feel it, right? And he's telling people exactly what to think and how to think. And I look around, man, people are crying, like life is exploding around me, and I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't even put myself. I tried following the instruction. I couldn't even put myself in there. And I think I resonated with everything I would put in my mind prior to this. Was not negativity, not hatred, not any of this evil stuff. I would put good things into my mind. So the books I read, the people I listened to, the people I hung around with, that I was friends with, the mentors that I had, the coaching that I got, all of this, I was putting positive things in my mind constantly. So when I was stuck in an environment like this, I couldn't even do it. I wouldn't allow myself to get into a place like that. And it was interesting because it was like, at one point he said, okay, now that you're in this state of mind, I want you to write down just everything that comes to mind. And I saw these people frantically writing on their notebook, all these things. And I couldn't even think of something that I was scared of. Now, part of that's being a young, cocky guy, right? Okay. But at the same time, after the exercise was over, right? And then he got to the building us back up and telling us all these amazing things that are going to happen in our lives and all this. I quickly took myself there to a super high level. And through that period, through that whole exercise, I'll tell you one thing that came of it that was super positive. He was trying to get us to say what we were fearful of. And it took me a long time to figure it out. While everybody's feverishly writing down all their fears, I'm like, I don't know. Life is so good right now, right? It's hard for me to do this. But here's what I walked away with. I walked away with, I don't value what I do for work, like my services to people, as much as I should, and I'm worth more money. And on the flip side, when he brought us out of it, that's what came out of it is I'm going to start making a quarter point more money on every single deal, no matter what, and I'm worth it. Nobody's going to leave me because I'm going to charge an extra quarter point. So that year, I made an extra $100,000, all because I charged an extra quarter point, which, oh, by the way, once I had the confidence to do that, led to a lot more. I would make sometimes a half point, a whole point more. And this is way back in the days when you can just do that kind of stuff. But hey, you got a tough situation, man. I'm going to bail you out. I'm going to charge more. And people were like, okay. I wasn't even afraid to say it. So, mindset, I am such a huge believer in. And I've also realized through the years, I didn't at first, but I was extremely fortunate that I had a dad that built me up. Now, my mom, she's still alive. She would say things to me all the time that were negative, right? She would pound on me about stuff. My dad would sit and build me up constantly and tell me how great I am and how great I'm going to be, right? And I believed it. And my dad's telling me this. And I never realized how bad parents were to their kids. I also learned from my dad that there's no instruction manual that comes with being a parent. Sometimes you're fortunate because you had really good parents, so you emulate that. And sometimes you have really bad parents and you emulate that, and you don't even know you're being a bad parent or you're not being as good as you can be. I'm coming full circle to this, I promise. I had a very specific situation happen with one of my friends, and we grew up in a Greek family, by the way. So there's a whole other thing that comes along with growing up in an old school Greek family. And my dad was the most Americanized out of all of them, but the rest were still very like village, like they grew up in villages, right? They were farmers. They grew up during the war. There was a lot of poverty. There was a lot of it was a tough period of time. And my friend was complaining how his dad is so negative and his dad doesn't help him with anything. And his dad was this and that, and he's not a good dad. And I remember my dad gave him some advice. He said, I hope you realize that your dad doesn't know how to be any different. He grew up during one of the hardest times we've ever experienced in society, right? There's so much poverty, there was so much death and brutality and during the war and all these kind of things that happened. Then he came to America, and what did he do? He worked his tail off day and night, and he sent money back home to support everybody, right? That's what they all did. And my dad, I think, said for the first 2 years, he didn't have one day off because there was always 2 jobs. So even when you got one day off, the other was you were still working. And he goes, "Oh, by the way, they treated you like shit back then. You were just a immigrant working the worst jobs in the world, and they treated you as such. You don't get food from the kitchen, you get the ones that people didn't want, the leftover, the stuff that didn't turn out right." That was how your dad grew up, he said. So give him a break. Just give him a break. He doesn't know any better. He didn't even know how to read. He goes, I learned, my dad said, he goes, I learned how to read. I was very fortunate that I did that. And I was able to start reading books on how to be better. And because of that, but your dad didn't even know how to read because he didn't learn how to be a good dad. And I look at all that and I'm just like, man, people have it so difficult sometimes. Like they really do. Some people have had just a, a raw deal delivered to them. And I can't ever truly understand that because I didn't have it. But kids got the shit beaten out of them by parents, right? They lived out of a car in some cases. They were told how terrible they are constantly. They were told how they're going to amount to nothing. And then we expect them to come out and really be something. And it's just no wonder, right? But then I think where my message is going here is that you don't have to live the story that you were fed. You do have this ability to become anybody you want to be. So to be true to yourself, I think you need to first figure out who you really are. And if you don't like who you are, figure out who you want to be and go after it, man. Get after it. And then we brought God into the picture. So I'll just keep going. God created us in his image, right? You're not a loser. You're an exceptional human being. You're an amazing individual. You are capable of everything. You have it all in front of you, but you have to be the one that's going to go out and reach out and grab it and get after it. How do we do that? And I want to get into it because this is your piece, but the tools are there and they're all free these days, right? You can start, I would say, start by putting good things into your head. Listen to good music, right? Read books, a lot of them. Listen to programs that are positive and uplifting and all that, and surround yourself with people that think like that. And you will find yourself turning around. And then to bring this all back to business, which is where I want to go, right? Like specifically in the real estate industry, how do we be better at our job? How do we make more money? How do we touch more people, change more lives, and have a successful marriage and kids so that they don't have to grow up and deal with all that shit that you had to grow up
Yeah.
with, that you had
Can we have it all? Can we have
can
it
we
all?
have it all?
That's the question.
So you said and I'd love to go into this now
Well,
before
first of all,
the
hold on. Let me interview you for a second.
all
I
right.
just want to commend you for for sharing that story. I think it's incredible. You've done a lot of inner work, and a lot of people that listen to this show, I'm sure, are fans of self-development and inner work. Most people in business, entrepreneurs, are fans of inner work. Why? Because business will pull all of the disbelief and all of those negative forces out of you immediately. And I know this because I worked a corporate job for 20 years. Now I've been in business full time. And trust me, like the trajectory of your inner game must go up. Otherwise, business will fall flat because business is such a spiritual thing. So I commend you for the inner work you've done. I want to commend you on one thing that you mentioned right off the bat. You said when you went to that Tony Robbins conference, he was trying to bring you down and you had a hard time going there. That is good that is be so thankful. And I know that you are because you had a dad telling you good things and building you up. You created a reality based on belief in who you actually were. And so that is an incredible head start that so many people don't get, you know what I mean? And so we all have traumas out there. We've all got realities that aren't really rooted in what I would call the truth. So we've all got our stuff, but that's an incredible testimony. But yet at the same time too, you switched it and you started charging a little bit more. And then when you started doing that, what happened to your belief, Dino, after that? Went up. Right, and then what happened to your impact? Then you started actually, like, seeing something you didn't see. Why? Because your belief started to increase, right? So, again, let's go if you rewind the tape all the way back probably 15 minutes ago, what is that thing that prevents us from truly stepping into who we actually are? Really comes down to belief and embodiment. And to your point, to put a bow around this before we move on, it's all in front of us. And guys, I want you to hear me on this show. Everything that you could possibly want and need in this life to live a very fulfilling life, it's all right in front of us. It's not something you have to go get. It's not some miracle that hasn't happened yet. It's all right before us. And I get goosebumps talking about this because all I got to do is engage with the journey. I'll give the ending away as we now really kind of get into the meat of today's show. The goal isn't to do more and grind yourself into the floor. If you want to make more money and have more impact, which is what your soul is crying out for, it's crying out for significance, for connection, for deeper, to go deeper. The answer isn't grinding yourself and trashing your marriage and losing your health. And so again, to answer your question or propose the question, can you have it all? And I think that you can. I think that you can actually make more money, have more significance, experience more flow, more freedom, more ease, and then life becomes way more exciting and fun. Not to say that there's not work involved and challenges, but I think that you can have it all.
I agree. And I'd love to build up everybody that's listening right now. And I know a lot of you guys in our industry are already pretty headstrong, but there's a lot of you that got beaten up in the last 4 years with the rates the way they were, as high as they were, and you're losing confidence. And I'll tell you, I didn't lose confidence this time around. In fact, I had leveled up. But back in 2008, man, I got the wind knocked out of me pretty hard. And there were times, right, where it was pretty bad. And I remember one time I I was again fortunate enough that I have such a strong mindset that I caught myself when I was in some desperate times. And I remember saying, "What the F? How come those guys out there are crushing it right now doing these kind of loans?" Like, I had never done an FHA loan in my life, right? I was in Newport Beach and never even lo and behold, it's not that hard. It's like it's the same loan, right? It's just a few different things. And I had never done one before. And but yet I heard of these guys out in the Inland Empire with the lower price homes just crushing it during this worst time where all of a sudden life sucked. These guys are making a ton of money. I was like, you know what, Dino? Freaking A, man, bounce back. There's always somebody crushing it out there. Just be that guy. And I'm having self-talk. Like, this is exactly how I was talking to myself. And get your ass up and go get it. And just like that, man, every year I had to make some changes in my life too. Right. Like, I had to get rid of some of the negative things that I was doing and had to start waking up earlier, start working out harder. I had to get mind and body all put together. But as soon as I did that, I I doubled my business the next year. The year after, I doubled it again. The year after, I doubled it again. And just like that, I was back. During a really bad time, I was back. And it taught me a lesson too. It's like, how did I even let myself get to a place like that? There were some circumstances, obviously, that were out of my control that collapsed my whole industry and all that, but I shouldn't have let it go for as long as it did before I bounced back, right? And that's a mindset. Even in a shitty ass time in the market, I was able to turn around just like a lot of people were. And this is one of those times, you guys, to a lot of people, this is one of those times. How many people have gotten out of our industry? You know what? You just left one of the best industries around. I cannot even imagine leaving this industry because number one, I help so many people in this industry. It's ridiculous. I help so many families get into houses. The reward, it's the most rewarding thing that I feel more than the money. And oh, lo and behold, guess what? The money shows up when you have that kind of a feeling about what you do for a living. So now, desire plus belief minus surrender. I know that's like that's your thing. So dig in, man. Go
Yeah.
for it. I want to hear all about that.
Again, I want to commend you because you understand that there's an inner game there. And so for people that are listening to this that are frustrated, they feel stuck, there's always something that you can do. And is it possible that this challenge, let's not call it a bad thing or just this horrific thing that's happening in the market or the world or whatever, let's choose to believe this is all happening for us and there's something very powerful on the other side of this. Is that possible? I think the answer is yes. And so let's engage with the process. So how do you create the most momentum possible? Again, you sketched it out there. Desire plus belief, like minus attachment. The first thing you have to have is you have to have desire. So there's got to be a hunger there. The hunger is comes from deep within. There has to be a longing. If you want to receive more, and again, I'm giving away the end of the test here, but the key to life isn't more doing, it's actually more receiving. Let's get weird for a second. Like the relationship between God and man, and when I say man, mankind, all humans, he's the giver, we're the receiver. You know what I'm saying? He's the creator, we're just here to receive. And so we are here, yes, to do some things, yes, to find some things. Got it. We're part of the play, capital P. But in essence, the core of why we're here is to receive. But to receive, there has to be a container. There's got to be a place to hold that blessing, the energy, the God's presence. There has to be a container. I'm holding up like this Yeti that I always bring around. There has to be a container. How do you create the container to actually receive more? Desire. Get excited. Get curious about something. If you feel that your life is not aligned, ask questions. If you feel a certain way about the business you're in or your future, again, ask questions because when you start to create this longing for something more, what you are actually doing indirectly is you're creating a desire and you're creating the container to then receive it. You know what I'm saying? One thing that I equate desire to is like going all in and deciding. There must be a decision that is made. I think a lot of people don't get what they want in life because we're just dipping our toe in. We try a little bit of this, we try a little bit of that. And you see on Instagram, somebody says you should do this. And so you try it, you do it once, and it doesn't really do anything. Of course it doesn't. You never commit to it, right? I talk about how there's a chasm between 99 and 100%. And it's just 1%. It's just like a 1% tick on the ruler. But when you really go all in on something, you are telling the universe that, like, I have full-fledged desire on this. And that signals to the universe for you to then receive. There may be things that are right in front of you. In fact, I would challenge you, there are things right in front of you that you have yet to receive. And this world wants to give them to you. God wants to give them to you. If you're a parent, you know this. All good parents want to, like, give their kids more, right? The desire of a good parent is to give. And there's a reason why we don't give our kids everything that we possibly have, because they're not ready to receive it yet. And that technology is at play between us and God. So again, the first piece of the puzzle is to go all in. So I would challenge your listeners to just make a decision. And when you make a decision, there's three things that are gonna happen when you truly make a decision. When you truly make a decision, it's gonna cost you something. A real decision will cost you something. It might cost you time, effort, energy. Probably will cost you money in some respects. There will be a cost. I work with a lot of people, and they want to take their lives to the next level, and I'll do coaching with them or whatever, and they say, "How do I take it to the next level?" I go, "You're gonna have to get on a plane and fly somewhere." And again, I live in the middle of the country, right? So it's like, you're gonna have to get on a plane to go to California or go to Phoenix or Florida or New York City, and there's gonna be a cost. Some of these, for you to get in the rooms with the right people, there's a cost. That's a decision, right? And so there's gonna be a cost. A decision that doesn't cost you anything isn't a real decision. It doesn't change the inner man. It doesn't change the inner being. It doesn't change the size of that container to receive. The second thing that constitutes a decision is that it creates a new identity. And I'm using very vivid biblical language here. There's a death, but where there's a death, there's a newness. The old has passed, the new has arrived. If you look at these if you go back in your memory bank and look at these really massive inflection points, and anybody listening here in your life, you rewind the tape, that was a massive inflection point. Chances are there was a decision that was made in that moment. An addiction, an addict that gets to the rock bottom, and they look in the mirror and they're like, "That I am freaking done. I am done." That's a decision. What did it cost them? I'm done using drugs. I'm done. That old identity of me using, that's dead. That's old. That's no more. Now there's a new identity. Real decisions create a real new identity. And the third thing that constitutes a decision is that there's an immediate shift in your behavior. The actions that you take are immediately different because it's an outflow of an inner identity shift. And when you do this, this interacts the technology to receive. And this is one piece of the puzzle, but this again connects that circuitry. And so let's just hit a hard stop here before we move on. But I would just challenge your listeners, like, where do you think that you've decided what you really haven't decided? Because a lot of people, we think that we have, right? And it's easy to say it. It's easy to be like, you know what, I'm gonna be more present with my kids. I'm gonna go all in on the business, and I'm really gonna push as hard as I can. And you know what? I keep being told that I need to go all in on social media. I'm gonna do it. And you post a video, and then you post another one next week, and then by a month you're not doing anything, right? Or a new strategy or whatever. It's easy to say, you know what? I'm gonna start going to the gym 5 days a week. And it's easy to say, and you get the dopamine hit by saying it. You tell your spouse, like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it now. But it doesn't translate into those three things. It wasn't a true decision. And the magic happens when you choose to decide. Can I tell you a quick story? Do I have time? I was dating my wife when I was doing TV in the early days in South Dakota, like 25 years ago. And I was working at this crappy station, with all due respect. And it was a great place to start. But after 5 years, I wanted out so bad. I wanted out so bad. And I started like chasing jobs I didn't even want. Like I was trying to micromanage my life. We do this, don't we? I'm stuck. I don't like where I'm at. I want to make more money or whatever. And so we start forcing it. And for a year and a half, I was trying to force doors by pure force open. I was applying for jobs I didn't even want. I went after a job in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and God bless Iowa. I'm sure it's a great place to live, but at 25, like I did not want to move to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. and I did
So,
not want to work
just so you
mornings.
know, my wife's from Cedar Rapids,
Is she
Iowa.
really? Oh,
So
no,
tread
don't tell
lightly,
her.
buddy.
Don't tell her. Don't tell her.
I actually love Cedar Rapids.
Is it I'm sure it's a beautiful
I like
place.
it more than she does.
But at 26 years old or whatever, like, I did not wanna move.
Yeah,
I wanted to get out, new change of pace, and I
she
remember
did too,
getting
the second she was able to.
oh my gosh. I remember I got turned down for this job that I didn't even want, that I was, with all due respect, overqualified for, and I remember telling my friend Jeremy, I said, "Jeremy, I feel like God is absolutely keeping me here, locked here, and he ain't gonna give me the next opportunity until I seal the deal with my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife, Emily." And she was all in. She wanted to get married, and I was all in. I was like 99% in. Like, I was fully committed, and I wanted to get married, but not yet. Someday. I was on the precipice. I had done everything that you could possibly do to get this close to sealing the deal, except actually doing it. And I remember telling my friend Jeremy, I go, "I feel like God is actually keeping me." In fact, it was very apparent. God was keeping me locked here until I said to him, "Maybe I'll buy Emily's ring, and then God will open up some door a year down the road, and it will just be effortless," which, by the way, life is supposed to be effortless in a lot of ways. We're not supposed to just go through life with a freaking bulldozer. And so one Tuesday, I hopped on the phone and I bought a ring. Like, I went from 99 to 100, even though we hadn't got married. And she didn't even know I was making this phone call, by the way, Dino. She didn't know I was making this call, but I jumped the precipice from 99 to 100. And this is, God is my witness, true story. 1 hour later, my phone rang from Phoenix, Arizona, from a station that I didn't even know that they knew who I was. I knew who they were, but I didn't know that they knew. And I get a phone call from KPNX in Phoenix, and they're like, "Dude, we've been looking for a guy for months, and we just found out that you're our guy. We want to fly you out next week." 1 hour later. And it was on the phone where I'm like, this is it. Like, 1 freaking hour. That's all it took, was
Yeah.
1 hour, right? And I'd never even visited Arizona. I'd never even been there. And I was on a plane next week. They offered me the job on the spot. I proposed to my wife the next week when I got the ring. And 6 months later, we were married, living in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm like, was that just a coincidence? Did that, like, just happen? And so it proved to me back then that our lives are way more choreographed than what we think. And there are so many things already created waiting to be given to us. And it's God's not withholding to be a jerk. He's withholding because he's waiting for us to open up the capacity to receive it. And so this world is truly an inner game world. We don't have to bulldoze through life and try to force doors open. In fact, every time I've done that, it's gotten way worse and way more painful. But when I've stopped and I've just focused on opening up myself to receive something greater, then God shows up and does what he is supposed to do. So what do we have to, air quotes, do? We just have to commit. We just have to go all in. Just commit. Again, I guarantee you there's somebody that's been kicked in the face by life or this business, because it sounds like I know your business enough to know that you guys have been kicked in the face. And so what will happen to your level of commitment by going through some of those things? Sometimes your desire goes down, it retreats a little bit. And I just want you to know, when you do that, you are actually starting to create the blockages to receive more. It doesn't mean you're not loved and cherished. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying, what if you recommitted and went all in again? What if you say, "You know what? I don't know how this thing's going to play out, but you know what? I'm just going to go all in and just do it and show up as much as I can and be an absolute giving force in this world. And I'm just going to commit to my people in this business the way that I used to do it, regardless of what the economy's doing." And I just challenge people, like, I dare you to try that, because that might be the blockage that you need to release to actually open up the door to receive.
Oh, lots and lots of things, right? I totally agreed with all the stuff you said. And now I'm thinking somebody's listening and they're like, all right, if I go all in on work, my family's going to suffer like they did when the interest rates were under 3% and all I did was work. If I go all in on my health, I'm going to have to spend more time at the gym, which means I'm not going to be able to put as much time in at work. Or if I do, then my family's still going to suffer. But I'm feeling good. I'm healthy. I'm working a lot, making money. But hey, it's so how do I manage all of that? And I'll give you where I'm going with it, and you can take it and run or not. Is there a season where you can be a little purposely imbalanced to realign yourself with what's important, where you need to be? Because ultimately, I'm the sole provider of my family. At some point, it's as much as I need to be there for my wife and my kids and all that, they also count on me for financial support. And part of it is like, hey, I'm the only one. I have to do it. So, is there a time that a little bit of purposeful imbalance is necessary?
Yes. Let me answer that question secondly.
Okay.
Before you get to that question, I would just challenge you to look inside at your belief system. Do you believe in if then statements? If I'm going to go all in on my business, then my health has to suffer. If I'm going to go all in on my business, then that means that I have to allow my marriage to not be as intimate because I'm working all the time. I would just challenge you not to get caught in dichotomy. Dichotomy is it's either this or it's this. There's two options. It's right or it's wrong. It's black or it's white. It's Republican or it's Democrat. Like it's black, you know what I mean? Like why can't it be all of it? Why can't it be everything? With all due respect, again, I'm 47. I'm in the best shape of my life. I have a intimate marriage. I've got 4 kids. My relationship with my family is good and growing. I have a growing business. And that's not a brag. I'm not like, look at me go. But if I lived in this world of you got to pick one, then you can't have it all. And again, let's just go back to the question. Can you have it all? I think that you can, but just grinding your way through it is not the answer. So let's just start there. Now, secondly, you said, are there seasons? 100%, 100%. But does that mean, again, this whole idea of work-life balance, I think, which is a myth. I think we'd all agree like that's a myth. So you work for 8 hours. Am I supposed to spend 8 hours with my kids? Am I supposed to spend 8 hours at the gym? That equal fair isn't equal. Balance sometimes isn't equal. You know what I'm saying? So I think that there's ways to compensate for that for particular seasons. I focus instead of focusing on balance, I focus on presence. Presence. Just because I'm at the office for 10 hours grinding away, especially the front end of my weeks, it's not uncommon for me to do a 10, 12-hour day for sure on Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays. Sundays to me are work day. I work most of my Sunday. But when I'm with my children or my wife during those times, and I work from home, so I've got moments throughout my day, I just want to be super present. If I even have 20 minutes to go to the gym, dude, I'm going to hit it hard for 20. I go to the gym now and I just see a bunch of guys staring at their phones, just sitting there on machines for 10, 12 minutes at a time. I've done half my workout and you're still staring at your phone. Can we just be super present? So I think that there is a way to do both, but I think presence is going to be the key. But it will start with a belief that you can certainly have it all. Why not? Why not? Again, I just challenge you because there's somebody inevitably like, you can't, where you give in one area, there needs to be a take. Yeah, if you live in logistical land, if you live in the land of logic, yes, that is true. But I don't want to live in the land of logic. I don't want to live in this physical world. I don't want to live by the rules of this physical world. So is it possible that I can actually become something more, get more efficient with how present I am with the task, and that actually allows for me to create greater results from the same amount of time? Is that possible, Dino?
So, can I jump in now?
Yeah.
We can go forever on this stuff. I love this stuff, right? Parkinson's law is one of my absolute favorites, and I truly believe it. I like to call it a little bit more like the vacation thing. When you go on vacation, like your desk could be a mess. You're behind on your emails. You didn't finish this project and that, but yet you're going to be gone for a week, and you're leaving on Friday. What are you going to do? Somehow you're going to finish all of those back emails, all of those projects. You're going to work forward for 1 week, and you're going to clean your desk before you leave. And just like that, somehow you do it. I don't know what it is, but you do. I do every single time.
So what is actually happening? Let's demystify a little bit. What's happening at the spiritual level, at the soul level? It's a belief system. By putting a border on how long something's going to take you in the mindset, you've created a boundary. Like I'm going to get this done in an hour. I'm going to get my desk cleared off in 5 minutes or by the end of the day, Friday, so I can go on vacation. And then it comes to fruition. You know what I'm saying? If I go into a day or a talk or a trip, or I'm coming into a Tuesday, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at my schedule and I've got to solve this problem. If I think it's going to suck, guess what's going to happen? It's going to freaking suck. But there are times where I've actually had projects and I blocked off an hour off of my schedule. I've got to solve this problem. And you know what? I think that this problem's gonna get solved way quicker than an hour. I think that somehow the world's gonna conspire to make this thing happen. I had an issue with my email, my CRM, and it was bogging me down for months. And I'm like, I have got to solve this problem on Wednesday morning. I blocked off 2 hours. It was solved within 20 minutes. So does it have to suck? No. I wonder how much pain, this is an open-ended question. I wonder how much pain we experience as human beings because we've gone into situations thinking it has to be painful, thinking it has to be a struggle. If you think life is gonna be a battle today, it probably is. And I'm not suggesting we bury our head in the sand, but what if we went into tasks or again, to your point, going all in? Why does going all in mean that, "No, this is gonna suck. I'm gonna have to work my tail off." Why can't it be amazing all at the same time?
So one of my mentors, Todd Duncan, I was in a group with him for a long time, and it was a mastermind group. There was greatest group of guys. So power of proximity, the people you surround yourself with, right? We would get together 3, 4 times a year and we'd go somewhere great and we'd spend day and a half, 2 days in a room together doing stuff. I learned an awful lot during that period of time, but during that period of time, I learned a lot about how to where I'm going with is jam session. Do you know what a jam session is? For me, and you can arrange any way you want. For me, it was a 1-hour block where nothing else gets worked on except for that one thing that I'm going to work on. But jam stands for just another million. So bottom line is, am I going to start working and be working on a bunch of stupid stuff that isn't going to make me $1 million? Or am I only going to focus on the big rocks, like the stuff that's going to make me $1 million? And if you don't think you're worth $1 million, then, figure out how to rewire your brain because you are, and you can make, and at least in our industry, you can make $1 million. It's not that hard. So the fact though is I know I'm worth $1 million. So what am I working on? I shouldn't be working on something that's not going to make me $1 million. Somebody else should be working on that. And now with that said, you have to rewire your brain quite a bit so that number one, you realize that's the most important thing. This other stuff isn't. Somebody else should either be doing that or you can fill in after you've done everything else. But the fact of the matter is, and then another guest I've had on, Todd Bookspan, his whole thing is win by noon. And I took that to heart. And when I was like flowing at my best, the hardest things I had in the day all had to be done by noon. And I still remember him saying this one time. He's like, if you do that, then even if you went home, you've already done it. You finished. None of that other stuff matters. In fact, I can't tell you how many times I flag an email so I can get to it later. And then I got these email buildups. And then a month later, I just go delete them all. Like they don't even matter. I know I had to train myself. And I've said this a million times. So other listeners, bear with me. I know you've heard it, but Jerrid has it. So I'm going to say it again. I had to put restrictions on my time, meaning I booked myself appointments in the middle of the day for a golf lesson, or I love infrared sauna, or to go visit my mom, or to do something. But the majority of the time I booked something that cost me a little bit of money. I even started doing hyperbaric oxygen chamber for a while because I was so into my health. And bottom line is like, if I didn't show up at 2:00, then I was going to lose money. And for those of you that don't know me, I hate losing money. So I would be there at 2:00.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, I wouldn't come back to work. So I put myself in that Parkinson's law. I only had 5 hours today to accomplish everything I have to accomplish. And guess what? It took a minute. I had to train myself to get there, but I got there, man. I got there. And I'm coaching somebody right now, and he was telling me how his biggest struggle is dominating his calendar. No matter what I try, all the techniques, all of this, I get dominated by the calendar instead of me dominating the calendar. And my response to him was that you can't dominate your calendar if you don't have systems in place, because you still have to get stuff done. Like things have to happen. Emails still have to get looked at, right? There's times right now, I don't even look at my email for hours and hours at a time. And I don't feel a panic like I used to. I used to get panicked over I didn't check my email. Now I don't even care. Somebody else is doing it for me. But the fact of the matter is that's a system. It doesn't get neglected. It still happens, but through a system. If you can't develop systems around you, you're never going to get to that place where you're moving only big rocks and accomplishing things.
You went all in on that, right? So again, your rebuttal, like your theoretical rebuttal is, Jerrid, if I'm going to go all in, that means I got to work till midnight every night. Does it? Or does it mean like creating a system and making a commitment to getting certain tasks done? I think if we were honest with ourselves, there's a lot of low hanging fruit that we could put better boundaries around our time and be more present. Be more present when you're working, be present. When you're working on a specific task, be present to that task. Turn off your phone, turn off social media, turn off your email. So again, you are doing the technology, whether you really considered it or not. You are going all in and you're making a decision on that. And that is a really key piece. That is,
Yeah,
go ahead.
real quick too, when
Yeah.
you say that, you made a comment earlier about working out in 20 minutes. It's so true, man. So true. If you go to the
All the
gym,
guys at the gym, just, that's
yeah,
all it is.
and you just stay off your phone, don't worry about changing the podcast or change, just put on some
Go.
music and let it rip.
Yeah.
And 20 minutes of nothing but,
Mhm.
man, that's a hard workout.
I rarely work out past 30 or 35 minutes. And
Yeah.
again, I'm not like, oh, look at me go, but like people say, how many hours at the gym? I'm like, never, never. And I don't do any cardio. I do little to no cardio. I stay really active, but I'm not just grounding and pounding at the gym. I'm really not. You know what I mean?
But if
So
you
again, how
switch
can we
from
be
one weight training exercise to the other,
go?
that's a lot of
Exactly.
cardio. That's
Exactly.
plenty of cardio. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like, you get it all.
Yeah.
So anyway, dude, yeah, keep going. I'm sorry.
Just for the sake of time, I want to make sure we get through this because we teed it up already. You have desire, right? So you have to have desire. The second piece you have to have is you have to have belief. There has to be belief. We've already touched on this a little bit. There's 3 specific things I think people need to have very strong belief in. You have to believe in your cause, what you're doing, the business that you're in. And again, this will get kicked in the face when you're getting beat up by the market and by business not coming in like it used to or as effortlessly as it was. Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until somebody gets punched in the face. And that's true. With all due respect to the realtors, like real estate was awesome 3, 4, 5 years ago. You could be an idiot and sell 20 homes. It wasn't that hard. Then life punches you in the face. And then all of a sudden, what's going on here? This is where the rubber meets the road. The people who really throttle into this season are the ones who come out stronger on the other side. So you have to believe in your cause. Then you have to believe in yourself. And this sounds silly that 2 grown men are talking about this, but do you believe that like you are special? Do you believe that you're fully validated, that you have what it takes? Do you believe that like you've been chosen for this specific role in this specific time, that you've been handpicked? Let's roll back the tape. Have you been handpicked by the creator to live where you live, to go through the things that you've gone through for such a time as this? And again, we could do an hour just on this, but like belief in yourself is so powerful. And that leads into the third one, which is really to me, the X factor in all of this. Belief that you actually deserve it. If our role here on planet Earth in our relationship with our creator is to receive, but you don't believe that you deserve to receive, that is going to be a massive bottleneck for you getting further in life, professionally, personally. There will be a very defined cap by which you will reach out of pure grit and determination, because here's the deal, grit and grind works. And then we need to transition into this like flow state of the combination of work, but also receiving. And when I dive in deep with guys like you that are high achievers who have had success and they're trying to go to the next level, if I have time to sit down and really peel back the onion, it comes down to a deservingship issue. There's some belief buried somewhere deep where they don't think that they are worthy or validated. And there's a word I love to teach and preach, and this is wholeness. Wholeness, where you are in a constant state of, I have everything. Not, I hope to get everything. I have everything. There's nothing that I lack. The spiritual work that I do is I try to position myself in such a way where if God gave me everything today, if he gave me everything, like I got all the deals and the money and the Range Rover, and I got everything, I went viral and I had the world watching me, right? Like I literally was given everything. I'm no more or less whole or validated than I am right now. Contrastly, I could lose everything. I could lose deals today. I could lose money. I could get my identity stolen, which has happened. If you know my story, that has happened. I could lose loved ones, which has happened. I lost 2 people in my immediate family in the last year, but I'm no more or less validated than what I am right now because I am a child of the king, to use very biblical language, and I'm an heir of the king, and I deserve it, not out of arrogance or narcissism. Some people, this rubs people the wrong way because it sounds a lot like narcissism. It's not. Narcissism is actually, you owe me something because there's an insecurity in me. No. Wholeness is like, there's nothing that you can give or take from me that I don't already have. And so out of an outflow, my life is purely just a channel of giving. And when I'm in that position, the irony in it is that it opens up the door to actually receive it because I believe that I deserve it. And we could spend a lot of time here just dissecting this, but this is a really key piece. And by the way, if you can combine desire and belief, the outflow of that will be action. People that are really just, they're in alignment and they're doing work, and like the work that they do, everything they touch is turning to gold. Chances are they have these two things working at the same time. They have an incredible longing and hunger, but they also have this belief side as well.
I love that. I'm going to throw one word in that I love. It's one of my favorite words, is perspective. And oftentimes you have everything, but because your perspective is so out of whack that you're just never happy. And it's like, what are you talking about? Look at your family, look at your career, look at your home, look at your friends, your surrounding environment, look at the gym you go to, right? Like all these different things, whatever that is, it's like your perspective is so out of whack. And I think there's a lot of unhappiness because people's perspective is off.
I've heard like somebody on TikTok or somebody shared a reel with me, and he was talking about happiness. And he said, happiness is what you have divided by what you think that you need. So it's what you have, like it's all your things. It's your social media followers. It's your money. It's your net worth. It's your houses. It's your job. It's your status. It's your family, your relationships. It's everything that you have over what you think you need, not what you need, what you think you need. If you think that you need nothing in this life, meaning you're fully whole, meaning there's nothing that I lack nothing. I'm fully whole as is, right? That means that you need nothing. And if you know anything about mathematics, I don't want to brag, but in my meteorological studies, I'm like this close to being a math minor. So I've taken a lot of math classes. But any number, no matter how big it is, whether you have nothing or you have millions of dollars in the bank, any number divided by zero, you know the answer to that question, do you know?
Zero.
It's infinite. It's not zero, it's infinite. Any number divided by zero is infinite.
Okay.
Meaning we have the ability in this moment, guys, to have infinite fulfillment and happiness, not by getting more. By the way, there's nothing wrong with wanting more and having things and trying to achieve more. The problem is when what we think we need goes up as well. So in this moment, can you become so whole that you don't need anything? Then that creates any number divided by zero. And then the value of that equation is infinite. This is why, like, you can go to third world countries, these people have nothing. They freaking have nothing. And they're so happy and full of joy. It's because they don't think that they have everything that they could possibly want. This is why you can go to very affluent communities and these people have everything and they're depressed and they're anxious and on medication. And I'm not poo-pooing medications or anything like that, but it's because the goalpost moves. As I acquire more, then I think I need more. And so that's literally the antithesis of wholeness. Wholeness says I have everything, not I hope I'm going to get everything. I have it in this moment. And from that position is where we do the best work. That's where the flow, and that's where the receivership starts to really kick in.
Yeah. When I went back to Greece as a kid to visit family for the first time and meet and see where my parents were from and all that, there's still outhouses and stuff like that. And there was one telephone in the whole village. And when my mom and I went, and my mom, my sister, and myself, and my dad stayed and worked, and he'd come towards the end of the vacation and meet up with us for a couple weeks and all that. But when my dad was going to call, one of the kids from where the phone was would run over to our house, come and get us, say, your dad's going to call back in 30 minutes. And we'd all go over there. And that's how we did it. And the one thing that stands out in my mind, right, between all of that was how happy these people were and how joyous they were that we were there visiting them. They went they were poor, by all means, they were poor people, right? But man, they rolled out the red carpet for us to whatever their red carpet was. And it wasn't what we're accustomed to here, but it was filled with love, like just filled with love. I felt it as a kid. It was insane. And that is what I would love to have. In fact, moving like back to today, right? Here we are in America. I remember one time I was like, my wife and I decided that we were gonna go out for dinner. I'm like, oh, why don't we call such and such, see if they want to come with? And she's like, oh, we can't do that. I'm like, why not? She goes, it's just last minute. You can't do that. I'm like, why not? We just decided. Maybe they'll decide. And then her other comment was like, she's going to think that whoever we had plans with canceled. And that's why we called them a second backup. I'm like, but we didn't have plans with anybody. We just decided. And yet this mindset of what my wife was going through, I was like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. We can't even just call another couple who's a friend of ours to say, we're going out to dinner. You guys want to come? And it started making me think about the old ways. And when I was a kid, my mom always had something at the house that was like ready to go just in case anybody stopped by, because that's how they did it. They just stopped by. And I think there's something beautiful about that. And I think if we could, as humanity, if we can get back to just stopping by and not filling our heads with all of the possibilities of what somebody might think or somebody might do or blah, 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 blah. Just stop by, just call up, just say hi, just come over for dinner. And you don't always have to go out for dinner. Come over. Let's do it old school where people can come back to the home, sit around the table, break bread and talk and laugh and listen to music, whatever that might be. I think you'll find so much happiness come back to people's lives. That's a
Amen.
beautiful thing.
Amen. That's what we're created to do, right? And that connects us with our creator, right? Because he's a giver, right? So when we give, actually, you're creating similarity of form with God. And so that's, again, that opens up the door to receive. That's not why we do it. You do it because that's what your soul is called to do. It's a beautiful share. I love that. I love that. Again, I know, just for the sake of time, I just want to make sure we touch on this last point here so we get there. If you look at the equation, it's desire plus belief, right? That turns into action. That's the doing part, right? It's doing it from a place of wholeness. But then there's this third piece, and this is the really hard one, right? This is where we have to detach from the outcome. This is where we have to, again, really practice wholeness, where I'm gonna go all in. I'm gonna put in maximum effort into the system, maximum energy. I'm gonna be as efficient as I can, and I'm gonna believe it. But no matter what outcome happens, I am completely detached from however it plays out, meaning it could turn out great, it could turn out not great, it could turn out better than I expected. I could lose everything, and I have to be okay with that. And that goes back to this, again, magic word that we opened with, which is surrender. This is, again, the most, it sounds bizarre because how can me help your listeners be better at life and business? And I would say surrender more. And it's one of those things that it's the easiest thing to do, because you know what you do? You don't do anything. But it's the hardest thing because it will cost you everything. You can't surrender a little bit. It's either God didn't go in on us. He went all in on us. He's asking us to go all in on the process. And through that, he's not asking us to surrender just a little bit or a piece over here or this part of my life or my marriage, but not my business, and my business, but not my money. It's all of it. That does not mean that we don't care. That does not mean that everything's going to work out exactly the way we want it. This is about really practicing another really cool word I love to throw around, and that's certainty. I believe I can go into my day, I can go into my week, even though the world seems chaotic, out of control, and uncertain, I can inject certainty into the equation. I can have what I like to call delusional faith, illogical faith. If I'm seeing and believing something that makes people scratch their heads, what's going on with that dude? Then I'm in the zone. Now, all of a sudden, my consciousness level now is rising above all the noise. And if you haven't learned by now, this world is filled with noise. If you don't believe me, turn on the news for 30 or 40 seconds. It's filled with noise. And I'm not saying we like ignore that stuff, but can we rise above that? And that's where this piece of my story has really come full circle in the last couple of years, where I've understood this idea. Because even though I was a Christian dating back to 25 years ago, Dino, we talked about this, I was not really fully surrendered. And I've learned that the more that I detach from the outcome, meaning I can get everything or I can lose everything today, it's all happening for me in some mysterious way I don't probably fully understand. I'm not being called to figure it out. And again, hopefully that's a good word to your listeners. Like, your job is not to figure out this whole world and the intricacies of the market. Your job is to show up for people as a giving force. You're going to go all in on them. You're going to go all in on yourself. You're going to go all in on your business, your family. You're going to believe. And then all you have to do is sit back and watch God do the rest. There's a saying that I sometimes close keynotes with. I say, you start it, God finishes it. You start it. And then you let God finish it, and that kind of highlights this whole surrender piece.
Yeah, that's so powerful. It really is. And I'm going to throw one more word out. Happens to be another one of my most favorite words is faith. And I view it in relation to God, but if you're listening, you don't believe in God, you can still take everything we just said and flip it any way you want, right? But surrender to the anxiety of the world. Have faith in yourself. Have faith in humanity, right? There's all these positive, beautiful things that are available to you when you open yourself up to it. And I think that's everything Jerrid's trying to say right here. Open yourself up, allow this goodness to come in, right? And have the perspective on life that is more like these people that live in poverty, that are just joyous with having the things that they have. All of the things you said, man, desire, belief, gosh, attachment, surrender. They have some amazing words that just flew out of this podcast. So thank you so much for being on it. And I really appreciate you coming here. I truly enjoyed my time. Whatever it's been, almost an hour and a half now. I could talk about this stuff literally all day long. So I'm going to wrap it up though. If somebody wants to get a hold of you or follow you or anything like that, and we're going to have all this in the show notes, but tell somebody right now how they can do all that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Likewise, you're an inner work guy, and I could tell that. And I just want, again, to reiterate, this is the game. Is there strategy involved in your business and life? 100%. 100%. But without the inner game, there will always be a limit. So can we tap into the limitless? And that was the nature of the conversation here today. Yeah. If you want to find more about me, I love to play online. Instagram, LinkedIn are my two favorites. And if you want to go even deeper, just go to my website, which is my name, JerridSebesta.com.
Awesome. Dude, thank you. Really
Dude, that's
appreciate it.
awesome.
I hope you at some point, for your sake, in the middle of winter, head out to California. And if you do,
Oh,
please look me up. I'd
yeah.
love to connect.
And you're in Orange County.
I'm in Orange County, and I got to just tell you, I make the best chicken and Greek salad. I call it a California Greek because I throw avocado in it. But it's like the best meal you've ever had.
If you see, so I'm getting a little bit more traction in your world. When I say your space, and again, obviously, I do not come from that background, but my message really resonates with people who are in business, they're in sales, and they've been through some stuff, right? Which fits your business. If there's an event out there that I could even just partake in, not even speak at, I would love to just. I want to say an excuse because I don't want to trivialize you and our relationship, but all I'm doing is just looking for the catalyst to hop on a plane and come to LA. And that's a place I have not been since I've been doing this whole thing. And that's a place I would love to just go and meet people. So let me know if you see something that's coming up.
I absolutely will. And just for the record, when you say LA, that sounds like Minnesota to me anyway. So it might as well be a million miles away.
What is it? Los Angeles?
Orange County and LA are two totally different spaces.
That's like people would say it's North and South Dakota. That's the same place, isn't it? Isn't that all just one state?
It is from California's point of view.
Exactly.
Anyways, dude, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate you guys and all the support. I don't know if you guys know this, but most of the time we land in the top 100 on Apple Podcast, and that just like out of the blue happened. So there's a ton of traction. That's because you guys are all listening. You guys are loving it. You're sharing it, but do more of it. it helps us a lot and it helps get this message out. So love you guys. Thank you. We'll see you next time.